Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. I am recording this on a Friday, normally when it goes up, just mainly because my week has been crazy. I now technically work 2 jobs and do 3 podcasts. So, yeah, things are going to be very interesting. So interesting that I forgot to take the trash out, and the trash man's right outside. Anyway, just congratulations to the winners from the 100th episode. And we are just going to keep on chugging along. And a lots thanks to all you all that gave shout-outs during after the 100th episode and left comments and PMs and all that good jazz. So I really, really appreciate it. Also, Jim Rex, I have heard thy plea. It is Lydia Malor, not Lydia Malor. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So I will be trying to say Lydia Malor as best as I can. But that Y is, it's easy for me to slip back in. But again, uncommon spelling. So yeah. Anyway, today's show is interesting because I'm going to be talking about something I really wasn't expecting to talk about at all, and that is Pogs. And you might be saying, like, okay, we're going to talk about Pogs. Yeah, we're going to talk about bystander tokens and pretty much Horde tokens. What do they mean in the modern age? Because we're seeing more and more of them, and yes, the warbots are at the forefront of that, but we really need to actually just figure out, hey, what sort of stuff is out there? How are they being used? What are some rules, things that I need to be mindful of? All right, so let's do a brief roadmap of what we're going to go talk about today. I'm going to go and look at some specific things with the rules. Then I'm going to go into about placement and selection of Horde tokens, and then we're going to try to look at some practical application. So rules, then selection, and practical application. All right. First off, definitely go and download the new rule book. I think it's streamlined a bit. I know other people have read it. I have not read it. So I really, really, really would prefer if, you go through it if you want to be an advanced player. I know I get lazy. I really do. And I'm just like, well, what did the forum say is new? And so you tend not to look at other things that do affect you, like Horde tokens. So if you look on, I think it's page 23, it starts talking, actually, no, it's before that. It's on page 22, they start talking about bystander tokens. And the big thing with this is that a lot of people, unless you've been playing the Lord of the Rings, really don't deal with bystander tokens. They really try to get us to use them with Fear itself. And we're starting to see a lot more bystander tokens in rock tournaments. And so I think there's a lot of good here. There's some bad, but there's some good here. Excuse me. I just literally woke up 15 minutes ago. So anyway, so here we go. The one part that I really want us to look at is there's 2 parts. The one is the stacks on the battlefield. If you look at that, it just says hey, you can have one stack walk into the square of another stack, and you can merge your stacks that way, which is really convenient for some of these powers. Or you can, split stacks, but that's an action to split. So you need to be able to be mindful of the stacking rules, okay? Because S, and this is the Horde powers things, S is confusing as anything else because it's not clear on the Pog itself because they only have so much space to print. But S is how many are in your stack. So if you ever see S, you don't really care about M, and M is the maximum number of allowed figure or pogs to be stacked. So if you see something that says hypothetically S gives all of your characters power cosmic, then let me rephrase that. M gives all your characters power cosmic. S, if when S is reached, you can heal +1 for your dice roll. Yeah, +1 in your dice roll. So if I have 2 stacked and M is 5, then I won't hit M, but I'll get +2 to my healing. So I hope that makes sense, as confusing as I made it. So that's the first thing. So one thing to exploit out of this rule is if you have figures with S that aren't too expensive, or you can fit them because, the game's really high points and, whatever. S is way easier to abuse than M. M is the most beneficial, but S is easier to abuse than M. Okay. Then there comes the epic hordes. And this is the part where I wish that they put inside of the core rulebook what is an epic battle, or if epic battles are just any battle that you fight, because this is sort of game changing, and this is the part where I don't think I know they are paying attention to it, but I don't know if they really wanted to make every game a epic battle. Because it says in epic battles, defeated Horde tokens are removed from the battlefield as normal, but have a chance to return. At the beginning of each player's turn, that player may place Horde tokens previously removed from the battlefield back onto the battlefield in that player's starting area. For each 100 points of the game's build total, a player may return 2 Horde tokens to the battlefield at the beginning of their turn, to a maximum of 50 total points of tokens per turn. You may return them directly into a stack if the stack is in the player's starting area and has less than M, which again is your maximum, tokens in the stack. In an epic battle, if a player has only Horde tokens remaining on the battlefield at the end of the turn, all of their Horde tokens are immediately defeated. Now, if you look at the, Argentina tournament, where the guy played a whole bunch of Horde tokens, and he also played, it was Astral Doctor Strange. Yes, Astral Doctor Strange. If his opponent at any point in time knew just this rule, like your forces are immediately defeated, I would just try to snipe the Astral. I probably would have just blew my whole army to go kill the Astral. So that's just something to be aware of. You can't be like, hey, one weenie and a bunch of pogs and there's no risk. So there is some things to think about. Now, with that said, if every battle is an epic action, guess what? Refueling those warbot hordes might be worth it if you're running Tellus or anything else. Because at 300 points, okay, you will be able to bring back 6 Horde tokens as long as they don't exceed 50 points. That's a lot. Now, you might also be saying, well, my opponent has full ability just to abuse that and just keep knocking pogs and pogs and pogs off. I'm like, yeah, they really do. But if your team is designed to just wipe them from the map, then according to this ruling, this is beneficial for you to actually think about Horde tokens. Now, again, I'm trying to make this clear. They haven't really defined epic battles. Because if everything is an epic battle over 100 points, for every game 100 points and over is an epic battle, then okay, then we need to just make that clear. If not, then we need to have a little bit, better definition. But I really think with the two rules that I pointed out to you, you can get the most abuse out of your pogs, and a lot of people just don't think about that. They just, because it's new, most of the pog stats are crappy, so crappy, but there are some advantages here and there. Now, in my search, there are some pogs that are not marked as Horde tokens, and so you have to be mindful of that. So like Beanie does not count, okay, because that's a whole different issue. It's not a character that you start your force with. It's like a generated character from another character. So you know, your Glaudigan, whatever, the freaking lion that's attached to Alyosha. You can't say like, oh, he's a Horde token, let me stack. You know, it doesn't work like that. Oh, he died, I could bring him back through Horde token rules. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, so to my knowledge, you need to, I'm assuming, and again, I can be wrong, people. I can be fully wrong. For you to be a Horde, you need to have that M token. Because without that M token, you wouldn't be a Horde. Sorry, the M symbol on the POG. So, like, the ones that I don't think are Horde tokens, and I don't know if that's been errated or clarified or whatever, is the Soldier and the Kryptonian Rebel from Man of Steel. Both of these figures do not have that little Horde token marking. So just be mindful that they are not Horde tokens. Same like the Cameraman and the Superfan. Superfan are not Horde tokens. They're just bystander tokens. So you can't stack those up. And anyway, there's some cool things that can be done with the various Horde tokens, and I think that we can start looking through in our selection and say like, all right, which ones stand out and why do they stand out? And I have a pretty decent list, so let's get into that. First off is the KGB spy from the Captain America the Winter Soldier set. I think he's in the starter. And pretty much, no, he's in like the little board game starter with only the Captain America and the Winter Soldier in it. He has a special Horde power that says expose your secrets when M, so when you're maximum, and his maximum is 4. Opposing characters adjacent to KGB spy can't use stealth. Okay, and so why is that a big deal? Okay, well, first, you know, we have, for 68 points, we have stealth busting, which is a bit high, but they have shape change in cap in stealth, so that's pretty cool. If we have a range-based team that can afford to sacrifice the KGB guy out there, then great. Also, remember, if he takes a hit, so what? Beginning of the turn, just bring, 1 or 2 tokens back, and bam, you're good to go. So you can rebuild that stack. So that's not a big deal. So we can get that stealth busting we need and have a level of stealth, have some range attacking. Even though it's just 1 damage, it's still not that bad. Next up is the Ironheart Captain. Now, the Ironheart Captain is awesome because you can play him in 2 different ways. If you really just need leadership, if you're looking at your team and your actions are low, your actions are high, but you don't have, you're low on points, just playing 1 Ironheart Captain works. Because here's what it says. Horde, 2 arms, Asgard. When stacked, 2, not 1, 2. You only need 2. Sorry, when stacked, the Island Hard Captain can use leadership. So you just need 2, and then all of a sudden, bam, you have leadership. And then when Island Hard Captain can use Empower. So that's great. But I really don't think the Empower is worth it at this stage. But just to say, like, hey, I got leadership. Bam. Plus, you have Precision Strike, 17 defense, and 2 damage. So you're in 3 range. So you're guaranteed to get some damage through, unlike some other Pogs. Then you have the Dark Elf Scout. Reconnaissance when M. So when we stack, so 45 points. Characters with 3 squares can't use stealth. Now, this is a lot more powerful than the KGB agent. Because you don't have to be adjacent. And you have a 3 square aura effect. And what have we learned with Tellus? That's right. We can send that 3 range all over the place. So we can actually really, really, really abuse this character. And this Horde stack is probably, it's not great for the points, but it's not horrible either. So definitely look at that one. Dark Elf, not to be confused with the Dark Elf Scout, has a stack. He can go up to 6. His Horde power is Horde, strength in numbers. When stacked, Dark Elf can use Empower. So pretty much for 20 points, we get Empower. Because it says when stacked. Doesn't necessarily say I have to hit M. When M, close combat attacks deal penetrating damage. Now, M is 60 points. So you can determine if you have that, strong ground pounder sort of team, you want to make sure that, the Dark Elf is part of it, hey, 60 points. But really, you're mainly using it for the Empower and the fact that you can actually be more devastating with multiples of these by themselves, because then they can empower each other as they flurry. So that's something interesting. That's something interesting to think about, that you're better off with 60 points with 3 stacks of 2 than you are with 60 points 1 stack. I know it gets weird, so again, bear with me. Anyway, moving on. Next up is the police deputy from, I think it's Fear Itself. And the police deputy has Horde, we have you surrounded. When adjacent friendly characters can use the police team ability. Now, this is the part that I sort of overlooked the first time. And I did not think about, oh gosh, I just messed up. I didn't think about the first time that I looked at this figure, probably last year. And the main thing that it came to me then, I was like, oh, all right, whatever, police team ability, blah, 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 I don't care. Now with the big changes to ATAs, we really need this. we really need this. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of just like how strong it is, that when you hit an easy 16 points, like this is less points, because M is the stack and it's 4 points. Sorry, no, it's not 16, 32. What am I doing? I'm looking at the wrong numbers. Okay. For 32 points. All right, there, I got it out properly now. Adjacent friendly characters can use the PD team ability. This means on huge point teams, huge point games, this 32 points is ridiculous. Okay, definitely if you're running a range team. Okay, so it's like, oh man, PD, everybody's PD. You might say, well, then it makes you very susceptible to energy explosions. So what? So what? This is just awesome. So I would definitely say, hey, police deputy, is meta. Definitely now. Definitely now. It's a lot harder to get your wild card whoring out. So, anyway. Next up is Mud Golem. And Mud Golem is interesting just because of how strong he is just for 20 points. You know, plasticity. He has he has an S power, and you could sort of say like, oh yeah, I could stack him, but I really wouldn't. Mud Suffocation when S is greater than equal to the result of adjacent opposing characters. Mud Golem can use poison. So I don't think there is a ruling of a stack of 1. I think stack is a minimum 2. This is, again, we might have to talk to the rules arbs on that. But I think a stack is a minimum 2. So you're looking at 40 points for poison. When M, the use of poison deals penetrating damage. That's 80 points. That's a bit much. Not really fond of that. So the one thing I would say is, hey, having 2 of these for 40 points and carrying that around so you can use poison, that's way better, as heroclix fall around me. That's way better than trying to put in for 60 points. Anyway, the overall power of Mud Golem, I think, is also found not just in his poison, just the fact that he can survive with super senses. And a lot of the Horde tokens don't have any really good survivability. And the exploit weakness means he can land a good melee hit. With 0 range, he's pretty good. Next up is Dwarf. Now, why is Dwarf on here? His M is 3, and weapon crafting is his special power, and it says give Dwarf a power action and place a standard light object from outside the game into an adjacent square. When M, you may place a standard heavy object instead. Why is this so awesome? This is so awesome for several reasons. A, we have mechanics in the game that allow your opponents to move your objects around. And I don't like that. Okay? So you have the ability to get your, something back. You're not completely hosed. The next thing is that he's indomitable and has super strength. So he can be the cheapest ball carrier that we have in the game. And remember, people, what is a ball carrier? A ball carrier is something that is a figure that carries something that does an aura effect. Like kryptonite, or like kryptonite, and you want to run your kryptonite around the field. Okay, so there's that. The other thing that we're looking at is Gizmo, homies, Gizmo. All right, Gizmo, and actually Gizmo and Cyborg Superman love this dude because now you can just say, hey, Gizmo, I know that the whole team needs prob right now. I think we can afford to put in enough points so that you hit your max dwarfs. So I have 3 dwarfs stacked up together to give me heavy objects. So everybody within my little radius, once Gizmo eats it up like a cookie, all of you have Outwit, or all of you have Probability Control, all of you have Range Combat Expert, all of you have Perplex. Thank you, Dwarf. Thank you, Gizmo. This is the new tech of the ages. And it's been sitting here for a while, but we just haven't had a reason to look at it. Next up is Stark Solutions employee, and Think Tank is their special power. When adjacent friendly characters uses Outwit or Perplex, increase their range by value S. When M, Stark Solutions employee can use Outwit or Perplex once per turn. Now, the one thing that becomes really evident is that for 64 points, just to get Outwit and Perplex and no damage, Outwit or Perplex and no damage is not worth it. It's really not. But to spend 16 points to increase the range of your Outwit or Perplex, now that's worth it. Also add in the fact you can have Mastermind fodder too. But mainly if you can say like, oh, my range value is 6, or my range value is less than 6, then you could use a Stark Solutions employee to increase your perplex range by 1, and if you want to invest 32 points, then by 2. So that makes it an 8 range for your perplex and outwit. I mean, not for your perplex and outwit. That's good. You know, that's good. You can reach out and really touch somebody that way, in a non-pedophile fashion. So yeah, definitely check out the Stark Solutions employees with the rules changes to outwit and to perplex. And I'm also sort of surprised that no one really played around with this, and no one really talked about Stark Solutions employee. So, I mean, even myself, but I guess there's just been other things that have clouded our attention. Next up is Asgardian Warrior. And why are we looking at Asgardian Warrior? Well, Blaze, Claws, Fangs, and 18 points is not bad. The next thing is for Asgard, when S is 2. So just pretty much, again, we just stack it up again for 36 points, sorry. Lazy math in the head. For 36 points. As characters with the Asgardian keyword is within 8 squares. Again, Tellus. Tellus just makes this more awesome. As friendly characters with the Asgardian keyword within 8 squares, Asgardian warrior can use charge and modify his attack value by +1. Sorry, and yeah, it becomes awesome. Well, maybe not Tellus. I'll take that back. Maybe not Tellus. So anyway, the main cool thing is for super cheap, we now have charge, Blaze, Claws, Fangs, and 11 attack. And it says when M, Asgardian warrior can use flurry. Forget that. We don't need to hit M. We've hit awesome, okay? Because we have charge, blades, and 11 attack for 36 points. So definitely, if you're looking for something to like round out your points and you need like a melee attacker, if you're running an Asgardian team, this sucker is awesome. Like by far, is really strong. Next up is we have Mutant Student. And I've used Mutant Student, and I talked about Mutant Student briefly before. And Mutant Student is 54 points. I gotta be honest, it's 54 points of what the heck. 54 points of what the heck. Now, if you look at it, for those who are able to click on it, really look at it. And what you will see is something of a work of art. If you're a skilled craftsman. If you're a skilled craftsman of heroclix, this is your Omni tool. All right. So anyway, one of us must have the right power, and your stack is 6, and it costs 9 points per pog. When M, at the beginning of your turn, choose a standard power. The mutant student can use that power until your next turn, or it takes damage. Now, for a lot of people, you might think, this is sort of like another figure I know. You know, what is that figure? It's in the forefront of my mind, but I don't quite remember. Well, let me try to jog your memory here. Go to Wolverine and the X-Men, and or you can look up under the Shi'ar. It's a nice little gentleman called Smasher. Exo Specs download. Give Smasher a free action and choose a standard power you didn't choose last turn. Until your next turn, Smasher can use a chosen power but can't use any other powers. Smasher's 86 points. He's 86 points for a moderate brick, but that special power is awesome. It's awesome sauce. Mutant Student is you shave some of those points off. You don't have really an attacker at all. But if you were using Smasher, you really weren't attacking with him 9 times out of 10. He was just like, I need TK, I need Perplex, I need this, I need that. That's all Smasher was doing previously. You have the same setup here with Mutant Student. At the beginning of the game, do you need TK? Well, bloop, TK out. Bam, 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 bam. Your opponent didn't see that coming. Later in the game, I need Perplex. Okay, cool. I need Willpower to get into position. Yay! Willpower, got in a position. So I don't push. Oh, it's an epic battle? I did take damage? Let me bring a Mutant Student back. Okay, alright, great. Here, I'm still taking damage. Let me bring, some more Mutant Students back. Bam, okay, cool, 2 more. Yeah, you can whittle down my Pog stack. I don't care. Oh, because I'm reforming a Mutant Student swarm back in the starting area. I mean, and that's a valuable option. So, anyway, Mutant Students, you can just say alternate between Perplex and Outwit, TK Outwit, Probability Control, Perplex. You can even say Empower, Enhancement, Willpowers. There is so much goodness that's there. And you can pick Precision Strike, pick up Ultralight, and chuck it for, 8 squares. There's some stuff here. All right, and last but not least is... I already clarified about the Soldier. So that's my pick. Those are my picks. And you might say, well, blah, blah, blah. I like Warbots. And I don't really want to talk about Warbots because Warbots, we use Warbots a lot. And we see people using Warbots more and more and more. So you don't really need me to break down why Warbots are good. Or even Scotty's Warbot. You don't need me to break down why that's good stuff. Because you guys are super smart people. You're listening to this podcast. You're wanting to cognitively think. So these simple elements here, I don't need to go into that. Now, here's when we start looking at our deployment, that placement element after our team design. We're mainly looking at filling the same typical roles that we have with any other figure. Attack roles, support roles, shenanigan roles, defense roles. We're getting all these different roles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a different figure. Sorry, not a different figure, a different Horde stack that I didn't really want to deal with before. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was really worth dealing with. But it helps the example flesh out. Okay, you have the Central Sentinel Sentry. It is from the Alpha Class Sentinel Scenario Pack from the X-Men Days of Futures Past. And it has Plasticity, Smoke Cloud, and then it has the Horde ability. When Sentinel Sentry can use Barrier as a free action, but only to place half of S blocking terrain markers. So, if you have 2 figures stacked, S is 1 square of blocking terrain. So you have 1 square of barrier. So for you to get 4, you would need 8, but you can't. You go up to 6, so you can only place 3. Really not worth it at 14 points. But this figure has the ability, which is really awesome, to not only, place barrier, but also able to place smoke cloud. And for 28 points, you can decide, do I really want to put 6 squares of smoke cloud out? Or do I really want to put out a barrier? If I really don't want barrier, do I just want to have permanent smoke cloud up with, just 2 separate sentinel sentries? So I would say, hey, does my team really need smoke cloud? Does my team need a lot of hindering terrain? Can my team manipulate hindering terrain? Can I really hurt my opponent by putting out smoke cloud? If yes, then a sentinel sentry, 2 of them would be more than enough to fulfill your needs for a very low cost of 28 points. And it's a support figure. So a lot of times previously we were like, oh my gosh, I'm not really sure about this. Well, now we can take a step back and say like, well, yeah, I think there is some abuse that I can do here. Also, the thing that's cool about Sentinel Sentry is that it is a giant. And so if we combine the Sentinel Sentry with our Mr. Policeman, police deputy, now we have a Sentinel Sentry that has access to the PDTA, that can look over characters and draw lines of fire back a couple of squares, because it's a giant. So now we're at a whole different scenario. We're at a whole different scenario of abuse. Yes, you could say like blah blah blah, your Sentinel Sentry can be shot because it's a giant, and I know that's true. But let's look at some common psychology of heroclix players. Do you constantly check the damage symbols, or just the symbols in general of your opponent's figures? Just giving you some time to answer. Okay. How many times have you thought a Pog is giant? Okay. Now, combine that with, when this comes out, hardly anybody's probably going to be thinking about it. And voila. Amidst other figures, you can create a psychological barrier. Now, this is not cheating, but it is unfair for your opponent. Because if you have the Pog behind somebody else, and you have them behind standard figures, your opponent most of the time won't even think about trying to shoot your Sentinel Sentry at all until you make your first attack. And you might be saying like, well, Dark Logos, you can't guarantee that. No, I can't guarantee that, but I can pretty much be about 80% sure that your opponent won't think about it. Because again, we've talked about this before about shortcuts, and your brain makes categories so you can have shortcuts, and that the more experience you get, the more shortcuts that you build up. And so sometimes these shortcuts are good. They allow us to say, yeah, I feel that these are good odds. Yes, I know that I need to go for this. Yes, I need to just not do that play. At the other end, shortcuts can be abused, because we could say like, oh, okay, Dark Alley is bad. Well, Dark Alley, there's a pizza party and someone's going to give you $100 for anybody that came to that Dark Alley. Well, you didn't know that. But what does your experience tell you? Dark Alley's danger, guys with knives, guns, and women with dynamite. That's what your experience tells you. Okay, so you'll never think Dark Alley, pizza party, someone's going to give me money. So same thing here. No one's going to think Pog giant until you do it. And if you keep doing it every week, then yeah, they're going to be fully mindful of it. But if you bring it out sparingly, that commonality, that shortcutness, those categories are going to reset, and you'll just do the trick again. So, again, we're looking at our placement, we're looking at our shenanigans and whatnot. And definitely, and I know I sort of jumped over the team composition part, but if you look at the point values for most of these most of these Pogs, you're spending a lot if you're trying to get M. And if you're just trying to abuse that one individual figure for whatever it has printed, you're getting it super cheap. Super cheap. Okay. And that's something that I think that most of us just don't recognize is hey, I can get, okay, for example, what is it? Flamethrower bot. Okay, here we go. Flamethrower bot has running shot, range combat expert, toughness. That's 15 points. If I put Hope Summers next to the Warbot Flamethrower, guess what? Hope Summers has access to running shot and she has access to range combat expert. So there's a lot there where we're looking at, hey, wow, I'm getting a whole bunch of powers for cheap, and I can use them in very effective ways. And so I really, really, really think that maybe we could start reevaluating the Pog Tech. My Argentinian brother has shown me, there's some possibilities out there. And definitely, I really do think that a lot of the stuff that we're going to be seeing now in the Swarm Tech is going to be utilizing the Horde tokens. Just for a pure fact that just replenishment in and of itself is game-changing. It's game-changing. The other thing that it becomes a little bit concerning is this. If you have a Horde token force and you have Tellus, and how much more dangerous do they become if you're able to combine some sort of other shenanigan that would make them a little bit more hardy or give them some other level of defense, then are you dealing with like the new tank? Are you dealing with the new, instead of Green Lantern tank, it's the Tellus tank, or the longbow formation, and this is here's your history moment on Starting Over podcast. In English military history, there was a point in time that if you really wanted to be like somebody, you would be like a longbowman. Yeah, you had your knights and all the other stuff, but really, it was a longbowman that allowed for the military to be what it was. Okay, just being purely honest, all right. The longbowmen were able to do like ridiculously long distances with their arrows, but like up front they were crap. Like if you were able to flank someone's longbow, if you were able to flank somebody's longbowman, they were pretty much boned. Like they were so boned. There was very little that they can do. But the range of the longbowman was to the fact, like, was so. Sorry, okay, getting my thoughts together. The longbowman's range was so far that usually they could get, a good longbowman could get about 4 to 5 volleys off before they would have to change their tactical position. And you're talking about taking out 5 to 20% of an opponent's army just with longbowmen. Coming back to heroclix, the big reason why range has been so ridiculous in heroclix is because it follows the same format of longbowmen. It's that you have them in a tactical position in which they rain down fire on top of everybody. If you flank them and are on top of them, they die. Tellus says, hey, guess what? If I can act as a sturdy little bridge, I can make pistols into sniper rifles and sniper rifles into, transatlantic missiles. And I know this is like a Tellus rant, but sort of bringing it back in with the Horde tokens, most of them are okay range. But when you start saying, hey, let me take that Sentinel and then put him with Tellus, and even though he has a 5 range, it's a 5 range of smoke cloud out from the farthest person away. So now I'm looking at putting smoke cloud, a good 21 squares away. Like that's, well, not 21 squares, sorry. I did the wrong math. 13 squares away. There we go. 13 squares away, I put out smoke cloud. And I jacked up all the things that you were planning. What do? Okay, and then I haven't gotten the resources and rings and hammers and all that other stuff because, let's be honest, if you add hammers to some of these stacks and just said, screw it, full stacks going on, the consistency that you have is unprecedented in heroclix. Honestly, because, and I think you'll hear it in my commentary on the Quarry this week, Horde tokens consistency cannot be matched. And many times, what do we comment on? Oh, that dial is consistent. Oh, I know what I'm going to get so I can push. Oh, I know that I'm not going to lose anything by being put in this position. So really, really, really think about this. You have figures. Well, I rephrase that. You have pog stacks that will constantly do what you want them to do. They won't change. They won't give you any surprises. No end dial, woohoo, we're awesome, or the party's over. None of that. It's straight. Whatever my stats are, that's what it's going to be. Whatever my powers are, that's what they're going to be. Do you know how many people would have slapped their mama for that ability? So once we start putting the pogs into that understanding that we're getting consistency for our stats and we're paying sometimes premium and sometimes dirt cheap for what they do, then we can start saying like, oh, okay, I can pair this with that with this other thing, or I can see where this is beneficial. So, there's a lot of good stuff you can use, and definitely I would say Police Deputy and the Mutant Student. Those are my two new favorite toys that I'll probably be busting out here and there. But anyway, don't sleep on it. Do not sleep on the Horde tokens, and definitely make sure you have the pack and ask around on the rules forum on AC Realms about, hey, man, what is classified as epic games now? Because to my understanding, every game is an epic battle. So, all right. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Definitely hit me up on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space. And it brought me a gift, an interdimensional scanner that allowed me to pick up myself from another dimension. It's awesome. And so I will have that recording for you very shortly. Well, according to when this is put out, it'll be soon enough. And so definitely follow me on Twitter. You'll know when the show is up. You'll also know pretty much when I have random musings, just whenever I want to say whatever I want to say. Also, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com if you wish to opine. Keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome. Tell me about your last month of AVX. Also, tell me what your venue's doing for month 4 now that Deadpool is pushed back. So, are you all going to push back month 4, or are you all going to do sealed or constructed or partial sealed? What's going to happen? Last but not least, you can check out the blog. You can donate. You can donate to the blog. Big shout out to my man Mace, the super all over the place, going to every rock tournament and he can and placing in top 16. He has donated to the show. So has Mr. Jacob Payne. They have helped pay for the equipment for the show. Thanks to Mace, we have now officially paid for the stand for the little the Ghetto GoPro, the Vivitar Ghetto GoPro. And thanks to Jacob, we have paid off the mic. So they will get some special bonuses, which they'll have influence on the show in a producer sort of standpoint. I still do the content, but they have a little bit more say. So if you donate to the show, you can have direct input and feed into a show. And I don't want to say you can pay to appear on the show, but we could probably work something out. So just throwing that out there. You donate to the show, and you can have a little bit more direct input. That does not mean that you cannot send topics to me. You can still send topics, and I will still cover them. But if you donate, it does put you to the forefront of the queue. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.